Part 1. The hidden treasure in plain sight. Most people spend their lives chasing happiness like it's a prize hidden at the end of a long race. They think, once I cross that finish line, once I get the right job, the right house, the right bank account, then I'll finally be happy. But here's the truth I learned, not from books, but from real life. Happiness isn't waiting for you at the end of the road. It's scattered all along the path, but only those who learn to open their eyes actually see it. Let me tell you a story. The factory worker's secret. Years ago, in a small town in Ohio, I met a man named Charles. He wasn't rich. He didn't own a big house or drive a shiny new car. He worked in a noisy factory, doing the same repetitive tasks every single day for 30 years. If you asked most people in town, they'd say his job was boring, maybe even soul-crushing. But here's the strange thing. Charles was one of the happiest men I'd ever met. He laughed easily, smiled often, and carried a kind of peace with him that made you feel lighter just being around him. One afternoon, I asked him his secret. "Charles," I said, "how do you stay so cheerful when your days look exactly the same? Doesn't it wear you down?" He chuckled, wiped the grease from his hands, and looked at me like he was about to give away a priceless secret. "Most folks are waiting," he said. "Waiting for Friday, waiting for retirement, waiting for something better to come along. I did that for years. And I was miserable. But one day, I realized something. Better wasn't coming. Better was already here. I just had to start seeing it." I leaned in closer. "What do you mean?" I asked. He smiled. "I started noticing the little things. The warmth of the coffee in the morning. The way the sun shines through the windows at the factory. The satisfaction of finishing a job well. A kind word from a coworker. My daughter's laugh at the dinner table. Once I started paying attention, I realized joy wasn't somewhere in the future. It was hiding in plain sight, right under my nose." That moment stuck with me. Charles had discovered what Napoleon Hill often taught: success and happiness begin in your own mind. It isn't about your circumstances. It's about your perspective, the trap of, "I'll be happy when." Now, let's be honest. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds. I'll be happy when I get a promotion. I'll be happy when I buy a bigger house. I'll be happy when I retire." Sound familiar? The problem with this thinking is simple. The goalposts keep moving. The minute you achieve one thing, your mind quickly replaces it with another. You might feel satisfied for a moment, but soon, you're back to waiting for the next milestone. Napoleon Hill warned against this trap. He said, "If you don't see riches in your imagination, you will never see them in your bank balance." The same principle applies to happiness. If you don't see joy in the present moment, you won't magically find it in the future. Because perfect conditions don't exist. There's always another obstacle. Always another reason to postpone your joy. A simple experiment. Let's try something right now. Look around you. Yes, wherever you are. Find just one thing you appreciate in this moment. Maybe it's the chair you're sitting on. Maybe it's the phone or computer that connects you to the world. Maybe it's the sound of your child playing in the other room, or the smell of coffee lingering in the air. Take a deep breath. Feel it fill your lungs. That's life, my friend. That's a gift. When you learn to notice these small treasures, life starts to feel different. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. Hill taught that gratitude is a magnet. It pulls more of what you want into your life. When you begin to appreciate the small, the big things start showing up, too. A tale of two lives. Let me share another story. I once knew a man named Richard. Unlike Charles, Richard was always chasing something. A better job. A bigger house. A flashier car. To outsiders, he looked successful. He had money, respect, and a lifestyle many envied. But here's the catch: he was never satisfied. Each new achievement gave him a burst of joy, but it quickly faded, leaving him restless and hungry for the next thing. When I asked Richard what happiness meant to him, he shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe when I finally make enough to retire. Maybe then I'll relax." But Richard never got there. He worked himself to exhaustion, and before retirement came, his health gave out. He never got the chance to enjoy all he had built. Charles, the factory worker, had far less money than Richard, but he lived a richer life. Why? Because Charles chose to see beauty in the everyday moments. while Richard kept postponing joy for a future that never came. The choice in front of you. Here's the point. Happiness is not a reward you earn. It's not a trophy handed out after you've achieved enough. Happiness is a decision you make every single day. Right now, you have everything you need to feel joy. The only thing standing in your way is the belief that you don't. Napoleon Hill believed in the power of definiteness of purpose. Just as you must decide what success means to you, you must also decide to be happy in the present. That decision, once made, changes the way you experience every moment. Your homework. So here's my challenge to you, the first step in mastering present moment joy. For the next 24 hours, every time you catch yourself thinking, "I'll be happy when," stop. Pause. Then, find one thing in your immediate environment to appreciate. Do this with intention. Write it down if you have to. At the end of the day, look at your list. You'll be surprised at how much good surrounds you when you train your mind to notice. That's how happiness works. It's not a destination. It's a habit. A skill you practice until it becomes second nature. Charles, the man in the factory, didn't stumble into happiness by luck. He built it, moment by moment, choice by choice. You can do the same. This is the first secret. Embrace present moment joy. Because the truth is, every day you spend waiting for happiness to arrive is a day you've already missed it. And once you learn to see the treasure hidden in the ordinary, you'll discover that every day has the power to be extraordinary. Backhand index pointing right. End of part 1. Would you like me to continue with part 2? Stop postponing your dreams, in the same style right away. Or do you want to review part 1 first before I move forward? Part 2. The voice that shapes your destiny. There's a secret conversation happening in your life right now. It doesn't take place in your office. It doesn't happen at the dinner table. It happens inside your own head. And here's the truth. The way you talk to yourself determines the life you create. Most people believe their biggest critic is their boss, their spouse, or their neighbor. But in reality, their harshest critic is the voice whispering inside their own mind. Napoleon Hill once said, "What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But here's the catch. If your mind is always conceiving doubt, fear, and failure, then that's what you'll achieve, too. Let me show you how this works, with a story of a man who almost let his inner voice destroy his entire future. The man who believed he was unlucky. I once worked with a man named Tom. Now, Tom was smart, capable, and hardworking. But he carried a dark belief everywhere he went. He thought he was cursed with bad luck. When his car broke down, he would shake his head and say, "Of course this happened to me. Nothing ever goes right." When a project at work failed, he'd mutter, "I should have known. I never succeed." When someone else got promoted, his inner voice told him, "You're not good enough. You'll never catch a break." And do you know what happened? His life began to mirror those thoughts. He lived in a cloud of disappointment, because he expected disappointment. Hill called this autosuggestion, the constant feeding of thoughts into your subconscious mind. The thoughts you repeat, whether positive or negative, eventually become your reality. Tom's repeated story, that he was unlucky, shaped every choice he made. He didn't take risks, he didn't seize opportunities, and he confirmed his own belief by creating the very failures he feared. But here's where the story changes. Point. One day, Tom finally admitted, "I'm tired of feeling like life is against me." That single awareness cracked the door open. Together, we worked on changing his inner script. Instead of saying, "Of course this happened to me," he learned to say, "This challenge is here to teach me something. I can handle it." Within months, his whole world shifted. The same setbacks still happened, flat tires, workplace challenges, unexpected bills, but his response was different. His inner voice became a coach instead of a critic. And guess what? The man who once called himself unlucky started to experience what looked like good fortune. He earned a promotion. His relationships improved. He walked taller, smiled more, and began attracting opportunities he never noticed before. The truth is, his luck hadn't changed, his mindset had. The roommate in your head. Now I want you to think about something. If you had a roommate who lived in your house and constantly said things like, "You're not good enough. You'll never succeed. Don't even try." Would you want to live with them? Of course not. You'd kick them out, and yet most people allowed that exact voice to live rent-free in their minds. They rehearse every mistake, magnify every flaw, and convince themselves they aren't capable of more. But here's the empowering truth: you control that voice. You can train it, redirect it, and transform it into your ally instead of your enemy. He'll believe the subconscious mind is like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant, whether fear or faith, doubt or belief, it will grow. The question is, what are you planting every day with your inner dialogue? The burden of yesterday. Let's shift gears. There's another reason people postpone happiness and success. They're carrying their past on their shoulders like a heavy backpack. I knew a woman named Susan who spent 15 years angry about her divorce. She couldn't go to dinner with friends without bringing it up. She couldn't meet someone new without comparing them to her ex-husband. Her past was long gone, but she carried it into every present moment. She had handed the man who hurt her the keys to her happiness, long after he had left her life. Hill taught that failure should be nothing more than temporary defeat, a stepping stone, not a life sentence. But Susan had turned her past into a prison. Finally, one day, she realized something powerful. Every sunrise offers me a clean slate. That decision, to stop carrying yesterday's pain, was like removing a 100-pound weight from her shoulders. She began to laugh again. She opened herself to new relationships. She started living in the present instead of replaying the past. And here's the lesson: the past is useful only as a teacher. Beyond that, it's dead weight. The trap of perfection. There's one more enemy I want to expose in this chapter: perfectionism. Many people believe they can't start their dream until everything is perfect. The perfect time, the perfect skills, the perfect plan. But perfection is a myth. It's fear dressed up as high standards. I've met countless people with brilliant ideas who never moved forward because they were waiting for someday. But as I like to remind them, someday is not a day of the week. Napoleon Hill warned against indecision. He discovered in his study of wealthy and fulfilled people that successful men and women make decisions quickly and change them slowly. The unsuccessful do the opposite. Perfectionists are trapped in indecision. They wait. They plan. They dream. But they never act. And while they wait, life passes them by. The power of small beginnings. The solution? Start small. But start. Write one page of the book you dream of publishing. Make one phone call for the business you've been postponing. Take one walk around the block if you want to reclaim your health. Do it today, not someday. Because here's a truth that shakes people awake: tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Your inner voice will say, "It's not the right time. You're not ready. You'll probably fail." But that same voice can be retrained to say, "I'm learning. I'm growing. Every step I take brings me closer." Once you shift that inner conversation, you'll discover what Hill discovered a century ago. Success begins in the mind long before it shows up in the world. Your homework for the next week: I want you to practice 2 things. 1. Awareness of your inner voice. Catch yourself when you say something negative. Write it down. Then, rewrite it into a more empowering statement. Example: I'll never get this right. I'm improving with every attempt. 2. A daily act of imperfect action. Do one small thing each day toward your dream. Don't wait for perfection. Move forward today. The takeaway: here's the great truth: you are not your past, you are not your mistakes, and you are not your fears. You are what you decide to think and do today. Napoleon Hill showed us that definiteness of purpose begins with mastering your own thoughts. When you take control of your inner voice, forgive the past, and act in the present, even imperfectly, you unlock the door to a life of joy and progress. So I ask you, what story will you tell yourself today? Because that story will shape your destiny. Backhand index pointing right. End of part 2. Would you like me to move forward and craft part 3? Continuing Napoleon Hill's principles, story-driven, 1,000 words. Now, part 3, the hidden power of progress, simplicity, and patience. Have you ever noticed that the happiest people you know are rarely the ones chasing perfection? Instead, they are the ones who start, who stumble, who laugh at their mistakes, and who keep moving forward anyway. I once met a man named Charles who dreamed of becoming a writer. For 10 long years, he told everyone about the book he was going to write. He had notebooks filled with ideas, shelves stacked with writing guides, and even a special pen he swore he would use when the time was right. Yet he never wrote a single page. Why? Because he was waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect idea. The perfect desk. The perfect silence. But perfect never came. Then one day, his wife looked him in the eyes and said, "Charles, if you don't start today, your book will only ever exist in your imagination. Write one page. Even if it's terrible." Reluctantly, he agreed. He sat down, pen in hand, and scratched out a clumsy, awkward page. He hated it. But the next day, he wrote another. And another. Some pages were nonsense. Some embarrassed him. But he kept writing. A year later, he had a full first draft. Not perfect. But real. And real can be improved. 2 years later, after revising and rewriting, Charles published his book. It wasn't flawless, but it touched thousands of lives. Now, here's the lesson Napoleon Hill would give you. Backhand index pointing right. Success comes to those who act in the spirit of progress, not perfection. Perfection is an illusion, a mirage that keeps you walking in circles in the desert, always thirsty but never drinking. Progress, on the other hand, is like water. You may spill some, but every sip keeps you alive, moving, and learning. Charles's story is not about writing a book, it's about life itself. Waiting for perfect conditions is the fastest way to guarantee you never bloom. Plant seeds today. The imperfect garden will still give you flowers by summer. The perfect garden, endlessly planned, will remain forever imaginary. And so, I ask you, what seeds have you been afraid to plant? Lesson 1. Progress over perfection. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack the courage to be imperfect beginners. Think of the first time a child tries to walk. They wobble, stumble, and fall. If they believed failure meant they weren't meant to walk, they would crawl for life. Instead, they keep trying until walking becomes natural. That's how success works in any field. Every master was once a disaster. Every expert was once a beginner fumbling in the dark. Perfection says, wait until you're ready. Progress says, start now, and readiness will come. Hill taught us that the habit of action builds momentum, and momentum builds destiny. Lesson 2. Find beauty in simple things. There was once an elderly man named Frank. He lived in a small apartment, owned little, and had recently lost his wife. By society standards, he had every reason to be miserable. Yet when I met him, he radiated more joy than most millionaires. I asked him, "Frank, how do you stay so happy?" He smiled, pointed to his kitchen window, and said, "That garden out there. I watch it every morning. Spring brings the buds. Summer brings the blooms. Autumn paints the leaves, and winter dresses the branches in snow. That view gives me more joy than gold ever could." Frank had discovered a timeless truth. Happiness doesn't come from chasing more. It comes from noticing what is already here. Too many Americans believe joy lies in the next promotion, the next purchase, the next adventure. But the richest joys often hide in simple things: the warmth of morning coffee, the sound of rain on your roof, the laughter of a child, the comfort of clean sheets at night. Hill would say that training your mind to see beauty in the ordinary is one of life's greatest riches. Gratitude sharpens your vision until everyday moments become extraordinary treasures. The question isn't whether beauty exists in your life, it's whether you are paying attention to see it. Lesson 3. Cultivate deep human connections. Another man I knew, a wealthy businessman, confessed to me one evening, "I'm surrounded by people all day, yet I feel completely alone." His relationships were transactional: deals, networking, handshakes. Nothing more. One day, he decided to change. Instead of talking about business, he began asking people about their families, their hopes, their struggles. He opened up about his own fears, too. Within months, his world transformed. Acquaintances became friends. Colleagues became confidants. He discovered what Hill emphasized over and over. Backhand index pointing right. The quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. It's not about how many people you know. It's about how many people you can be real with. To connect deeply, you must first dare to be vulnerable. Share your dreams and your doubts. Listen with genuine curiosity. Show up not just in celebrations, but also in storms. When you do, you'll discover that connection is not about being impressive, it's about being authentic. Lesson 4. Patience, the lost art. We live in an age of instant everything. Instant meals, instant messages, instant gratification. But here's the truth: no shortcut can erase. Everything worthwhile takes time. Your closest friendships, built over years of shared experiences. Your most valuable skills, forged through countless hours of practice. Your greatest wisdom, born from a lifetime of trials and lessons. Impatience whispers, "Hurry! Rush! You're falling behind." Patience answers, "Steady! Endure." The harvest takes its season. A farmer never plants seeds today and expects a field of corn tomorrow. Yet, in life, many of us demand immediate results. And when they don't come, we quit, robbing ourselves of the reward that was just around the corner. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active persistence. It is showing up every day, even when progress feels invisible, trusting that every drop of effort is watering the roots of your future. Hill would remind us, the oak tree begins as an acorn, but only time can reveal its strength. The golden thread. Do you see the golden thread running through these lessons? Progress over perfection, beauty in simple things, deep human connections, patience in the journey. Together, they form a philosophy of living that transforms ordinary days into extraordinary lives. Success is not found in waiting for perfect conditions. It is found in beginning, noticing, connecting, and persisting. So I ask you, will you keep waiting for perfect? Or will you start with good enough, pay attention to the beauty around you, build genuine relationships, and trust the slow work of patience? The choice, as always, is yours. Sparkles. That's part 3, rewritten in storytelling plus Napoleon Hill style, 1,000 words, easy for American readers. Do you want me to continue with part 4 in the same structure and style, hook plus stories plus Hill-inspired lessons? Or would you like me to expand this part into a bit more storytelling before moving on? Part 4. The invisible forces that shape your destiny. There's a hidden law that governs success, and most people never realize it until it's too late. This law is as real as gravity, and it operates whether you believe in it or not. Napoleon Hill called it one of the greatest discoveries of his life. Your thoughts shape your reality. Let me show you through a story. The tale of two brothers. Many years ago, I met two brothers from Ohio, Mark and David. They grew up in the same small town, in the same modest house, with the same opportunities. But their lives turned out very different. Mark believed the world was against him. He told anyone who would listen, "People like me never get ahead. Life is unfair. Success is for the lucky few." He carried that belief everywhere, and as you can imagine, life confirmed it. He bounced from job to job, always complaining about bad bosses and worse luck. Every setback was proof that he was doomed. David, on the other hand, carried a different belief. He told himself, "Every problem carries within it a seed of opportunity. If I stay persistent, good things will happen." Now David faced the same obstacles, layoffs, bills, setbacks, but he interpreted them differently. Where Mark saw dead ends, David saw detours. Where Mark saw problems, David looked for hidden lessons. Over time, David built a small business that grew into a thriving company. Mark remained stuck, still insisting the world had cheated him. The difference between the brothers wasn't luck or talent. It was the invisible force of their beliefs, the thoughts they held about themselves and the world. Backhand index pointing right. What you consistently think becomes the blueprint of your destiny. Lesson 1. Guard your mind. Hill often said, "You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, because you have the power to control your thoughts." Most people let their minds run wild, filling them with fear, doubt, and negativity. But your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant will grow. Plant seeds of defeat, and you'll harvest failure. Plant seeds of belief, persistence, and purpose, and you'll harvest success. The challenge is not the circumstances outside of you, it's the dialogue inside of you. So, ask yourself, what thoughts are you rehearsing every day? Lesson 2. The power of definiteness of purpose. I once knew a young woman named Sarah who wanted to do everything. One week she wanted to be a teacher, the next a business owner, the next a writer. She started many projects, but finished none. She was like a ship changing directions every hour, busy, but never arriving anywhere. Then one day, she stumbled on Hill's teaching about definiteness of purpose. She realized she needed to pick one goal and devote herself fully. She chose teaching. From that moment, every decision, every effort, every connection served that purpose. Within 5 years, Sarah wasn't just a teacher, she had become a leader in education, starting programs that impacted thousands of students. Backhand index pointing right. Definiteness of purpose is like a compass. Without it, you drift. With it, you cut through storms and arrive at your destination. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack clarity. They are scattered instead of focused. But once you know exactly what you want, the world begins to rearrange itself in your favor. Lesson 3. The Mastermind Principle. One of Hill's most powerful discoveries was the idea of the mastermind, a group of like-minded individuals working together toward a common purpose. He observed that no great success in history was ever achieved by a single person alone. Edison had his team of inventors. Henry Ford had his circle of engineers and thinkers. Carnegie had his advisors. The principle is simple. When two or more minds come together in harmony, they create a third, invisible mind, a power greater than the sum of the individuals. I remember a man named Tom who tried for years to grow his business alone. He worked long hours, read countless books, and tried every strategy he could find. But he felt stuck. Finally, he joined a small group of entrepreneurs who met weekly. They shared ideas, encouraged one another, and held each other accountable. Within a year, Tom's business tripled. What he couldn't do alone, he accomplished with the collective energy of the group. Backhand index pointing right. Success loves company, not any company, but the right company. Surround yourself with people who lift you higher, not those who pull you down. Lesson 4. Persistence, the iron quality. Imagine striking a rock with a hammer. You hit it once, nothing happens. Twice, nothing. 100 times, still nothing. But at the 101st strike, the rock splits open. Now here's the truth. It wasn't that last strike that broke the rock. It was the accumulation of all the strikes before it. Success works the same way. Most people quit after strike 50 or 60. They think nothing is happening, but in reality, every effort is weakening the rock of resistance. Persistence is what carries you to the breakthrough. I recall a salesman Hill once studied. This man failed for years, barely scraping by. Friends told him to quit, to find another career. But he refused. Every rejection, he told himself, was bringing him one step closer to success. One day, his persistence paid off with a breakthrough account that changed his entire life. From that moment forward, opportunity seemed to flow to him. But it only came because he refused to give up when others would have. Backhand index pointing right. Persistence is the price of admission to greatness. The invisible forces at work when you combine these principles: controlling your thoughts, developing definiteness of purpose, building a mastermind, and practicing persistence. You unlock the invisible forces that shape destiny. Your thoughts create belief. Belief fuels purpose. Purpose attracts allies. Allies strengthen persistence. Persistence produces results. This is not theory. It's a formula proven in the lives of millions. A question for you: look at your life right now. Are you drifting like Sarah before she found her purpose? Are you trying to do everything alone, like Tom before he found his mastermind? Are you striking the rock only a few times, then giving up? Remember, success doesn't belong to the lucky or the gifted. It belongs to the ones who learn to direct their thoughts, focus their purpose, join with others, and refuse to quit. That is the Napoleon Hill way. That is the American way, the spirit of building, striving, and overcoming. The law is simple, my friend. What you think, believe, and persist in will eventually become your reality. So the question is, what reality are you building today? Sparkles. That completes part 4 in the Napoleon Hill story style, 1,000 words. Do you want me to go ahead and draft part 5 next? Continuing with the same momentum and lessons? Or do you want me to first expand this with even more storytelling, like 2 or 3 more parables inside each lesson? Part 5. The price of success and the courage to pay it. Have you ever asked yourself why so few people truly succeed? It's not because opportunity is rare. This is America. Opportunity is everywhere. It's not because talent is rare. Ordinary people rise to greatness every day. It's because most people are unwilling to pay the price. Napoleon Hill observed this truth over decades of study. Every person he met who reached great success had sacrificed something: comfort, security, approval, or even sleep. The world gives nothing of lasting value for free. Success demands courage, persistence, and a willingness to pay in advance. Let me tell you some stories to make this real. The farmer who paid the price early. There was a farmer named Joe in Indiana. Every spring, his neighbors would tease him because he worked harder than anyone else. While others took weekends off, Joe was up at dawn, planting, fertilizing, checking his fields. "Why work so hard now?" they laughed. "Summer is long. There's time." But Joe understood something his neighbors did not. You can't harvest in the fall what you didn't plant in the spring. When autumn came, Joe's fields were golden and full. His neighbors, who had delayed and distracted themselves, harvested far less. Backhand index pointing right. Success works exactly like farming. You must pay the price first, long before the reward arrives. Lesson 1. Success demands sacrifice. Hill once said, "Great achievement is usually born of great sacrifice, and is never the result of selfishness." Look at anyone you admire, a business leader, an artist, a parent who built a better life for their children. Behind their achievement is sacrifice. They gave up something today to gain something greater tomorrow. The question isn't whether success requires sacrifice. The question is, are you willing to decide what to sacrifice? For some, it means giving up late nights for early mornings. For others, it means letting go of toxic friendships that drain energy. For many, it means trading comfort for courage. But here's the beauty: what feels like a sacrifice today often becomes a blessing tomorrow. The price is temporary. The reward is lasting. The young salesman who refused comfort. I once met a young salesman named Rick. In his first year, he barely scraped by. His friends mocked him, saying, "Why not take a steady job with guaranteed pay?" Rick considered it, but deep inside he knew he wanted more than security. He wanted freedom. So instead of quitting, he doubled his efforts. While others slept, he studied. While others wasted weekends, he knocked on doors. Within 5 years, Rick had built a sales empire that gave him not only wealth but time freedom. He traveled with his family, donated to causes he cared about, and inspired others. The irony? The same friends who mocked him later asked for jobs in his company. Backhand index pointing right. Success always demands temporary discomfort before it grants permanent reward. Lesson 2. Courage overcomes fear. Fear is the silent thief of success. It whispers, "What if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if you lose everything?" Napoleon Hill studied hundreds of failures and found fear at the root of most. Fear of poverty. Fear of criticism. Fear of rejection. These fears paralyze more dreams than lack of money, lack of talent, or lack of opportunity. But here's the secret: courage doesn't mean you feel no fear. It means you act despite the fear. There was once a woman named Angela who dreamed of opening a bakery. She baked the best pies in town, but for years she hesitated. What if no one buys them? What if I fail? One day, her husband said something that changed her life. "You've already failed if you never try." So Angela found the courage to start. At first, she sold pies from her own kitchen. People loved them. Word spread. Within 3 years, she owned the most popular bakery in town. Backhand index pointing right. Fear never goes away completely. But once you act in spite of it, fear loses its power. Lesson 3. The invisible power of faith. Hill emphasized again and again. Faith is the foundation of all achievement. Faith means believing in your goal long before it becomes visible. Consider the Wright brothers. Almost everyone laughed at the idea of human flight. Newspapers mocked them. Experts declared it impossible. Yet the Wright brothers kept their faith alive, working tirelessly in a dusty bicycle shop, building and crashing dozens of prototypes. In December 1903, faith took flight. Their rickety machine lifted off the ground and stayed airborne for 12 seconds. That moment changed history. If they had waited for public approval, if they had surrendered their faith to the critics, the dream of flight might have died with them. Backhand index pointing right. Faith is believing in the unseen, but it's also refusing to give up until the unseen becomes seen. The hidden law of compensation. Here's a principle Hill often pointed out: life always pays you exactly what you earn. Not more, not less. If you give little effort, life gives you little reward. If you give extra effort, life multiplies your return. But payment is never immediate. It comes later, sometimes much later. That's why most people quit too soon. A miner may dig for months and find nothing. Then, one swing of the pick reveals a vein of gold. Did that one swing create the gold? No, it was the reward for all the swings before it. Backhand index pointing right. The law is clear. Life pays you in proportion to the price you are willing to pay. A story of transformation. Let me share one final story. There was a man named Frank who lived his whole life playing it safe. He worked a steady job, paid his bills, and kept his dreams locked away. In his 60s, he looked back and realized he had never taken a real risk, never pursued a true passion. One day he told me, with tears in his eyes. I never failed because I never tried. But I also never succeeded. I traded my life for safety, and it cost me everything. Frank's regret became my warning. The price of success may be high, but the price of regret is higher. The courageous choice. So, my friend, here's the lesson of part 5. Success always demands a price. That price usually feels uncomfortable at first. But courage, faith, and persistence transform the cost into reward. Fear and comfort, if obeyed, lead to regret. Napoleon Hill discovered that every person must decide: pay the price of success now, or pay the price of regret later. One leads to freedom. The other leads to chains. Which price will you choose? Sparkles. That completes part 5, 1000 words, in Napoleon Hill's story-driven style. Do you want me to move straight into part 6, the grand finale, with a powerful call to action? Or would you like me to first provide an outline of the 6 parts together so you can see the full flow before finishing? Part 6. Writing your life's masterpiece. Every great story has a climax. A turning point when the hero either rises to greatness or falls into regret. Your life is no different. Right now, as you read these words, you are standing at such a turning point. Napoleon Hill spent a lifetime studying the greatest achievers of his time: Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell. What he discovered was simple. Ordinary people, when they commit to extraordinary decisions, shape their own destiny. The question is, will you? The tale of 2 brothers. Let me tell you a story. Point 2 brothers grew up in the same small Midwestern town. They faced the same struggles, the same opportunities, even the same temptations. But they made different choices. The first brother, Mark, believed life was unfair. He spent his days waiting for a lucky break, complaining about his job, and blaming others for his setbacks. He postponed his dreams, always saying, "One day, when things are better." Years passed. His one day never came. The second brother, David, also struggled. But he decided to live by a different rule. If it is to be, it is up to me. He started small, working on his goals a little each day. He refused to let fear stop him. He refused to let comfort seduce him. He chose courage, persistence, and faith. Years later, Mark lived with regret, while David lived with freedom. Their circumstances had been the same. The difference was the choice each man made about how to use his mind and his time. Backhand index pointing right. And here's the truth: you and I are no different. The power of a definite chief aim. Napoleon Hill taught that every success story begins with a definite chief aim, a clear, burning desire, backed by faith and relentless action. Without it, people drift like ships without a compass, at the mercy of the waves. Think of Thomas Edison. He failed over 1,000 times before creating the light bulb. But he had a definite aim: to bring light to the world. His failures were not dead ends, they were stepping stones. Think of Henry Ford. He was mocked for dreaming of affordable cars for ordinary families. But his definite aim fueled him until the Model T rolled onto American roads and transformed the world. Backhand index pointing right. The size of your life will always match the size of your aim. The mastermind principle. Another discovery Hill made is that no one succeeds alone. Every great achiever surrounds themselves with what he called a mastermind group, a circle of people who share ideas, energy, and encouragement. Carnegie had his trusted advisors. Edison had his team of inventors. Ford had his engineers. Even the great leaders of history, Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt, all had close allies who sharpened their vision and gave them strength. Success is never a solo act. The lone wolf always struggles. But the person who builds a team, who seeks out mentors, who surrounds themselves with dreamers and doers, that person becomes unstoppable. Backhand index pointing right. Who is in your mastermind? And more importantly, who is missing? The law of persistence. Perhaps the most powerful truth Napoleon Hill discovered is this: success always belongs to the persistent. He told the story of R.U. Darby, who stopped digging for gold 3 feet short of the richest vein in Colorado. Another miner picked up where he left off and became a millionaire. Darby's mistake was not lack of opportunity, it was lack of persistence. Now think about your own dreams. How many times have you been 3 feet from goal, but gave up too soon? Remember this: setbacks are not signs to quit. They are tests to prove how badly you want it. A vision of your future self. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself 10 years from now. There are two possible futures waiting for you. In one, you played it safe. You listened to fear. You postponed your dreams. That version of you is older, heavier with regret, and haunted by the question, what if I had tried? In the other future, you decided to live by the principles we've explored together. Present moment joy, positive self-talk, patience and persistence, courage to face fear, faith in your dreams, deep human connections, and above all, a definite chief aim. That version of you is alive with purpose, surrounded by people you love. Proud of the life you built. You are fulfilled, not because life was easy, but because you lived with intention. Backhand index pointing right. Which version will you become? The call to action. Napoleon Hill ended. Think and grow rich with a challenge. Awake, arise, and claim your heritage. And that is my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop postponing. Stop telling yourself stories about why you can't. Today is the only day you are guaranteed. Your dreams are waiting. Your future self is waiting. Your family, your community, your country, they are all waiting for you to rise up and lead with your example. So here is what you must do. 1. Decide on your definite aim. Write it down today. Point 2. Build your mastermind. Find people who believe in you and share your vision. Point 3. Take daily action. Even if it's small, act every single day. Point 4. Persist until you succeed. Never stop 3 feet from gold. Point 5. Share your journey. Inspire others by living boldly and authentically. And finally, remember this, you have within you the power to shape your destiny. Napoleon Hill proved it. Thousands before you have lived it. Now it's your turn. Your move, friend. This 6-part journey has been a roadmap. But a roadmap is useless unless you walk the path. Don't let these ideas fade as another story you once read. Let them ignite a fire that changes the entire course of your life. If these words spoke to you, if you feel that spark inside, then I invite you to keep this movement alive. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe for more lessons in the spirit of Napoleon Hill. Backhand index pointing right. Share this with someone you care about. Be their spark. Backhand index pointing right. Comment below with one action you will take today. Not tomorrow. Because someday isn't a day of the week. Today is the day. Your masterpiece begins now.